Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power Explained, animated summary of key lessons. The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene lays out principles of power dynamics, social manipulation, and self-preservation. Here's a detailed explanation of each law, including examples of individuals who followed or broke them, and the consequences or benefits of their actions. 1. Never outshine the master. Explanation: always make those above you feel superior. If you outshine them, you risk triggering their insecurity and envy. Praise their wisdom and subtly diminish your brilliance to avoid conflict. Example: Nicolas Fouquet, Louis XIV's finance minister, flaunted his wealth and outshone the king, resulting in his imprisonment. In contrast, Galileo attributed his discoveries to powerful patrons, securing support and avoiding suspicion. Consequence: outshining authority invites envy and downfall, while maintaining their superiority ensures safety and favor. 2. Never put yourself in the position of the other. Explanation: don't empathize too much with others, especially in power struggles. Too much empathy can cloud your judgment and make you vulnerable. Example: Marie Antoinette, known for her detachment from the struggles of the French people, ignored their plight, contributing to her downfall. On the other hand, Machiavelli advised rulers to act without emotion, maintaining distance and control. Consequence: empathy can diminish your leverage, while detachment allows you to maintain an advantage in negotiations and power plays. 3. Conceal your intentions. Explanation: by revealing too much, you expose yourself to sabotage. Conceal your goals and let others guess your true purpose. Example: Cardinal Richelieu concealed his true motives through indirect actions, becoming one of the most powerful men in France. In contrast, Napoleon III revealed his ambitions too soon, which led to his downfall. Consequence: concealment keeps others off balance, while transparency can lead to failure by allowing opponents to anticipate and thwart your moves. 4. Always say less than necessary. Explanation: speaking too much dilutes your power. Silence or brevity commands respect and leaves others guessing, attributing wisdom to your restraint. Example: Calvin Coolidge, known as Silent Cal, rarely spoke but wielded significant influence. In contrast, King Louis XVI often over-explained, revealing his weakness, which contributed to his loss of power. Consequence: brevity conveys authority, while excessive talking can expose vulnerabilities and weaken your influence. 5. Soar above the herd. Explanation: to gain influence, stand out through innovation or boldness. Don't blend in with the masses, be distinct. Example: Elon Musk revolutionized industries by pursuing bold, futuristic projects, soaring above competitors. In contrast, companies that follow trends without innovation often remain obscure. Consequence: distinction brings influence and success, while conformity leads to mediocrity. 6. Court in favor of the powerful. Explanation: align yourself with those who hold power. They can offer protection, influence, and resources. However, ensure your value to them is clear. Example: Benjamin Franklin courted favor with powerful British and French figures, securing vital alliances during the American Revolution. In contrast, Aaron Burr alienated both political factions, leading to his political exile. Consequence: courting powerful allies accelerates your rise, while alienating them can lead to isolation and failure. 7. Win through your actions, never through argument. Explanation: arguments rarely change minds and often cause resentment. Let your actions speak for themselves and demonstrate superiority. Example: Steve Jobs avoided debates, instead showing the results of Apple's innovations. In contrast, Richard Nixon's constant defensive rhetoric during the Watergate scandal led to his fall from grace. Consequence: actions are more persuasive than words, while arguing weakens your position and breeds hostility. A man is either with you or against you. Explanation: identify your allies and enemies. Neutrality is a myth. Anyone not with you is a potential threat. Example: Julius Caesar understood this, securing loyalty from his men while isolating his enemies in the Senate. In contrast, King Charles I failed to distinguish friends from foes, leading to his execution. Consequence: clear alliances and defined enemies strengthen your position, while ambiguity invites betrayal. 9. Use people as tools. Explanation: in power struggles, leverage people's talents and positions to achieve your ends. Ensure they benefit just enough to remain loyal. Example: Henry Kissinger skillfully used alliances to shape U.S. foreign policy. In contrast, Nikola Tesla was often exploited by others such as Edison, without realizing his own value. Consequence: Strategic use of others helps achieve goals, while failing to leverage resources leads to missed opportunities. 10. Attain your ends by all means. Explanation: power requires pragmatism. Be ruthless and adaptable, pursuing your goals without letting moral constraints impede your progress. Example: Vladimir Lenin was pragmatic, using any means necessary to establish the Soviet Union. In contrast, Woodrow Wilson's rigid idealism limited his effectiveness during post-World War I negotiations. Consequence: pragmatic ruthlessness often leads to success, while moral inflexibility can obstruct progress. 11. Learn to keep your enemies close. Explanation: keeping enemies close allows you to observe them, anticipate their moves, and neutralize threats before they materialize. Example: J. Edgar Hoover kept files on his enemies, ensuring they were always within his control. In contrast, Julius Caesar was assassinated by conspirators he had alienated, not realizing the danger they posed. Consequence: keeping enemies close allows for better control, while distancing them invites surprise attacks. 12. Win through default. Explanation: avoid direct confrontation. Let opponents make mistakes and capitalize on their errors to claim victory without unnecessary effort. Example: Catherine the Great of Russia waited for her opponents to falter before making her move. In contrast, Napoleon's relentless aggression led to his ultimate defeat at Waterloo. Consequence: patience and allowing others to err lead to easier victories, while aggressive confrontation can result in costly defeats. 13. Strike first, strike hard. In any power struggle, hesitation can be fatal. The idea behind this law is to act decisively before your enemies can strike. The element of surprise is often your greatest weapon. For instance, Alexander the Great was known for his swift and unexpected military tactics, which left his enemies in disarray. On the contrary, those who delay, like the Trojans who allowed the Greeks time to build the Trojan horse, often face dire consequences. By acting first, you control the pace of the conflict and force your opponents into a reactive position. However, striking prematurely without sufficient information can lead to disaster, so timing is key. 14. Pose as a friend, work as a spy. This law advises that you gather information by appearing trustworthy and friendly while secretly acting in your own best interest. By being amiable, people let their guard down, allowing you to gain valuable insights into their plans and vulnerabilities. Take Cardinal Richelieu, who positioned himself as an ally to the French nobility while secretly consolidating his own power by learning their secrets. In contrast, those who wear their ambitions on their sleeve, like Brutus with Julius Caesar, may face suspicion and backlash. The benefit is access to crucial information, but the danger lies in being exposed as a manipulator, which could lead to swift retribution. 15. Crush your enemies completely. When you move against your enemies, ensure that you leave no chance for their resurgence. Half measures often result in adversaries regrouping and coming back stronger. Genghis Khan epitomized this law. His ruthless tactics ensured that once he defeated an enemy, they could never recover. A modern example of breaking this law is when the Treaty of Versailles left Germany humiliated but not crushed, paving the way for the rise of Hitler and World War II. The benefit of this law is security and finality, but the danger is that too much ruthlessness can inspire new enemies or backlash from those who sympathize with the defeated. 16. Use absence to increase respect and honor. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. If you're too available, people may begin to take you for granted. By making yourself scarce, you increase your value and allure. For instance, the mystique of reclusive artists like J.D. Salinger made their works even more sought after. In contrast, celebrities who oversaturate the media often lose their appeal. The key is balance. Too much absence and you risk being forgotten, but when used strategically, this law creates anticipation and respect. The benefit is increased attention and value, but the consequence of overuse is fading into irrelevance. 17. Keep others in suspended terror. Cultivate an air of unpredictability. Unpredictability is a powerful tool in keeping others off balance. If people can't predict your actions, they can't effectively counter them. Muhammad Ali's famous strategy, where he alternated between aggressive and defensive styles, often confused and exhausted his opponents. On the other hand, predictable behavior makes you vulnerable, as seen with General George McClellan's hesitancy during the U.S. Civil War, which cost him several opportunities for victory. By keeping others guessing, you maintain control. However, too much unpredictability can lead to chaos and erode trust, which may isolate you from potential allies. 18. Do not build fortresses to protect yourself. Isolation is dangerous. Fortresses may provide physical protection, but they isolate you from valuable information and alliances. Being too closed off can make you vulnerable to subtle attacks that you cannot see coming. French King Louis XIV, for example, kept his court close, engaging them in frequent social events so that he could keep a watchful eye on his rivals. In contrast, the Ming dynasty built the Great Wall of China to isolate themselves from external threats, which ultimately did little to stop invasions or internal decay. The lesson here is that isolation can blind you to the movements of enemies and stifle potential support. The benefit is security from immediate threats, but the danger is losing the pulse of the world outside your walls. 19. Know who you're dealing with. Do not offend the wrong person. Not all enemies are equal. Some may seek revenge for even minor offenses, and their ability to retaliate may be far greater than anticipated. An example of obeying this law is seen in Niccolò Machiavelli's advice to rulers to carefully weigh the consequences of their actions against rivals. In contrast, the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand ignited World War I because the assassin's backers underestimated the political fallout. Offending the wrong person can lead to catastrophic results, while tact and discernment help you navigate complex relationships. The benefit of this law is avoiding unnecessary conflict, while the consequence is the potential for disproportionate retaliation. 20. Do not commit to anyone. This law advocates remaining flexible and independent, allowing you to maintain your freedom of choice. By refusing to align yourself with any one person or faction, you preserve your ability to act in your own best interest. Talleyrand, the French diplomat, is a perfect example of this law in practice. He served multiple regimes without fully committing to any, always ensuring his own survival. Conversely, those who tie themselves too tightly to one side, like Benedict Arnold, often find themselves trapped and disgraced if their faction falls. The benefit is personal freedom and adaptability, while the consequence of commitment is a loss of autonomy and potential downfall if you back the wrong party. 21. Play a sucker to catch a sucker. Seem dumber than your mark. Appearing less intelligent than your opponent can be a clever strategy. When people underestimate you, they're more likely to let their guard down, making it easier for you to outmaneuver them. This law was often used by Thomas Edison, who would present himself as an absent-minded inventor while secretly working on revolutionary innovations. Conversely, those who flaunt their intelligence, like Nikola Tesla, may face jealousy or sabotage from others who feel threatened. By playing dumb, you lull your opponents into a false sense of security. The benefit is the element of surprise, while the risk lies in being underestimated for too long, which could limit your opportunities. 22. Use the surrender tactic. Transform weakness into power. When you find yourself outmatched, it's sometimes better to surrender rather than fight a losing battle. This tactic buys you time and gives you the opportunity to regroup and fight another day. A famous historical example is the Roman general Fabius Maximus, who used delay and retreat tactics against Hannibal, ultimately saving Rome. On the other hand, those who refuse to surrender, like General George Custer at the Battle of Little Bighorn, often meet with disaster. By surrendering strategically, you avoid immediate destruction and gain a chance to turn the tables later. The benefit is survival and regrouping, while the danger is that surrender can be perceived as weakness, emboldening your enemies. 23. Concentrate your forces. In power struggles, spreading yourself too thin can lead to defeat. This law advises focusing your energy and resources on a single objective or area where you can achieve decisive success. For example, Alexander the Great's concentrated focus on conquering Persia led to one of the greatest empires in history. In contrast, Napoleon's decision to invade Russia while simultaneously engaging other European powers diluted his strength and ultimately led to his downfall. The benefit of concentration is increased power and success in your chosen endeavor, while the consequence of scattering your forces is inefficiency and vulnerability. 24. Play the perfect courtier. Court life is a battlefield, and survival depends on your ability to navigate its treacherous waters. This law encourages you to master the art of flattery, diplomacy, and subtlety to gain favor with powerful figures. Sir Walter Raleigh, through his charm and wit, managed to stay in the favor of Queen Elizabeth I despite many enemies at court. On the other hand, Anne Boleyn's inability to play the courtier ultimately led to her execution by Henry VIII. By becoming an expert at managing relationships with those in power, you ensure your own survival and advancement. The benefit is lasting favor and influence, while the consequence of failure is being outmaneuvered and cast aside. These laws, when followed wisely, can lead to success, influence, and lasting power, but breaking them often results in 36. Disdain things you cannot have. Ignoring them is the best revenge. If you show that something is important to you, it gives others power over you. By refusing to acknowledge or react to what you can't have, you deprive others of leverage. During the Cold War, the United States often ignored Soviet propaganda, which frustrated Soviet efforts to influence American opinion. In contrast, when King Henry VIII became obsessed with divorcing Catherine of Aragon, it led to a break with the Catholic Church and years of turmoil. The benefit is emotional and strategic freedom, while the danger lies in repressing desires that may manifest in unhealthy ways. 37. Create compelling spectacles. Dazzling displays and elaborate performances capture attention and distract people from what you are truly doing. Louis XIV of France, the Sun King, was famous for his grand court spectacles, which kept the nobility occupied while he consolidated power. In contrast, those who neglect the power of spectacle, like Soviet leaders who relied on drab parades, often fail to inspire or manipulate effectively. The benefit is mass distraction and awe, but the danger is that an over-reliance on spectacle can backfire if people see through the facade. 38. Think as you like but behave like others. In power dynamics, it's crucial to appear like everyone else while keeping your true thoughts and intentions hidden. By outwardly conforming, you blend in and avoid unnecessary conflict. Inwardly, however, you remain free. This was the strategy of Galileo, who publicly recanted his support for the heliocentric theory to avoid execution while privately continuing his scientific work. In contrast, those who flaunt their nonconformity, like Socrates, often face persecution. The benefit of this law is survival, but the risk is becoming invisible or too compliant. 39. Stir up waters to catch fish. Chaos and confusion often work to your advantage if you are the one controlling the storm. By deliberately sowing discord, you can distract your opponents and force them into hasty or ill-considered decisions. General Ulysses S. Grant created confusion among Confederate forces during the U.S. Civil War by attacking unexpectedly at various points. On the other hand, those who fail to stir up confusion, like British forces during the American Revolution, often fall prey to well-organized resistance. The benefit is disorienting your opponents, but the danger is that chaos can spiral out of control and backfire on you. 40. Despise the free lunch. Anything offered for free often has hidden costs or obligations. By avoiding free offers and always paying your own way, you maintain independence and control. This principle was famously adhered to by J.P. Morgan, who refused to accept favors without reciprocating. In contrast, those who take free handouts, like many in corrupt political systems, often find themselves indebted to others. The benefit is autonomy, but the danger is that rejecting all free offers may cause you to miss genuine opportunities. 41. Avoid stepping into a great man's shoes. The shadow of a great predecessor can be difficult to escape. By establishing your own identity and legacy, you can avoid being compared unfavorably to those who came before you. For instance, Alexander the Great never allowed himself to be overshadowed by his father, King Philip II of Macedon. In contrast, Louis XVI of France struggled to escape the legacy of his more successful predecessors, leading to his eventual downfall. The benefit is carving out your own niche, but the danger is that failure to meet expectations can lead to swift dismissal or irrelevance. 42. Strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter. To neutralize your enemies, identify and eliminate their leader or central figure. Without their shepherd, the rest of the flock will fall into disarray. This tactic was employed by the Allies during World War II when they focused on dismantling the Nazi leadership. In contrast, during the Vietnam War, the U.S. failed to identify a single leader to target, leading to a prolonged conflict. The benefit is swift resolution of conflict, but the danger is that a new leader may quickly rise to fill the void if the transition is mishandled. 43. Work on the hearts and minds of others. If you win over people's hearts and minds, you can lead them wherever you want. This is best done by appealing to their emotions, desires, and dreams. Figures like Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. mastered this law, inspiring people with their messages of hope and justice. In contrast, those who rely on brute force like Mussolini or other dictators often face rebellion. The benefit is loyalty and devotion, but the risk is that emotional appeals can backfire if seen as manipulative or dishonest. 44. Disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. By mirroring your opponent's actions, you can confuse, frustrate, or even drive them to the brink of madness. The mirror technique was used by ancient Chinese general Sun Tzu to outwit his enemies. When they expected him to act in one way, he mirrored their moves, throwing them off balance. In contrast, those who refuse to adapt and mirror their opponent's tactics, like General Custer at Little Bighorn, often fall victim to predictable defeat. The benefit is unpredictability and control, while the risk is that you may lose yourself in the act of mirroring. 45. Preach the need for change but never reform too much at once. People are naturally resistant to change, especially when it is abrupt. By implementing reforms gradually, you can avoid resistance and unrest. Tsar Alexander II of Russia attempted sweeping reforms too quickly, resulting in his assassination. On the other hand, Deng Xiaoping in China reformed gradually, allowing the country to adapt to change over time. The benefit is smoother transitions and acceptance, but the danger is that moving too slowly may fail to address urgent issues. 46. Never appear too perfect. Appearing too flawless can create envy and resentment. By showing occasional flaws or weaknesses, you humanize yourself and avoid becoming a target. This principle was understood by people like Marilyn Monroe, whose vulnerability made her a beloved figure. In contrast, overly perfect individuals like Howard Hughes, who seemed invincible but was ultimately crushed by his isolation and neuroses, often invite backlash. The benefit is relatability and protection from envy, but the danger is revealing too much weakness and losing authority. 47. Do not go past the mark you aimed for. In victory, learn when to stop. Know when to stop after achieving success. Continuing to push forward after you've already won can lead to ruin. Napoleon's invasion of Russia after his string of victories in Europe was his undoing. On the other hand, Fabius Maximus of Rome knew when to hold back and avoid unnecessary battles, leading to long-term success. The benefit is consolidating power and avoiding overextension, while the risk is missing opportunities by stopping prematurely. 48. Assume formlessness. To maintain power, avoid being rigid or predictable. By remaining adaptable and formless, you can evade attacks and respond to challenges in unexpected ways. This principle was famously embodied by Bruce Lee's philosophy of Be Water, where he emphasized fluidity and flexibility in martial arts. In contrast, rigid structures like the Soviet Union eventually crumbled under the pressure of change. The benefit is resilience and longevity, but the danger is losing a sense of identity or direction if you are too amorphous.